Are you thinking about investing in multifamily properties? Then you need to see my pros and cons to help you start evaluating the process and decide if it's the right choice for you. My name is Ryan Anderson with Lamacchia Realty. Every week I bring you up-to-date real estate related content, so be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And if you're seeing this on Facebook or Instagram, be sure to like, comment, and follow my page for more helpful tips to get you through the real estate process. So let's dive into it. Is it for everyone? No, it's simple as that. You have to be able to look at the transaction and operation as a numbers game. And that numbers game needs to remove emotion from the process as much as possible. So let's get into those pros and cons. So let's talk about the pros about investing in real estate, specifically related to multifamily property investment. You have more cash flow possibilities. If you purchase it right, meaning you take the emotion out of it, you make it about the numbers, you have the ability to cash flow a property pretty quickly. Now, what does cash flow a property actually mean? It means that your income is up here and your expenses are down here. So you want to make sure that you're cash flowing so you have cash left over from the operation of the multifamily property. And small increases or decreases in each unit's rent per month can have ripple effects on your monthly cash flow. All right, so this next one has to do with your loan. So when you're buying a single family home, you get one mortgage, one house. That's it. All right. So when you're buying a multifamily property, you have one property with potentially multiple units. So one loan, 5 units. Okay. So you have one debt service, one finance cost, but you have multiple units that are bringing money in to help contribute to the debt service of that property or the mortgage. So that is a huge opportunity to help boost up your cash flow in the process of owning that multifamily property. All right, so when you're a business owner, whether it be, your own small business, like property investment, property management, that sort of thing, you're always going to have some form of a insurance policy. You don't want to operate a business without having yourself covered by some form of an insurance policy. So when you buy one multifamily unit that has potentially, we'll just use 5 because it's easier on the other hand, one property, 5 units, you also only have to get one master insurance policy. That master insurance policy covers the entire property. All right. You can also require your tenants to carry an additional amount of renter's insurance depending on your local regulations. All right, so these next 2 items are very closely related when considering about investing in real estate, specifically with multifamily investments. So first, math over emotion. So the math needs to make sense in order for you to buy the property, meaning your cost to operate the property, whether that be utilities, your mortgage, taxes, all that stuff need to be less than the income earning potential for that property. Okay. If you're paying cash for the property, that's obviously a different story and that's a different topic for another day. But if, like most people, if you're going to be financing the purchase of a property, that mortgage payment needs to be folded in to your operating costs for that property. And number 2, it's a business. You're not running a hobby shop. You're not crafting here. You need to make sure that when you're running the business of owning that multifamily property, that you're making decisions that make sense from a dollar and cents perspective, not from an emotional, high reward, low value perspective. And oftentimes too, if you're operating multiple multifamily properties, you may also need to consider the cost of operating with a property management company. Whether you actually run that property management company or you contract that out to somebody else, that's a cost that you're going to need to factor into the operation as well. Because one person as a solo investor can only do so much when you're considering investing in a multifamily home. So another important thing too is income valuation. Income valuation is different from the traditional comparative sale model that real estate agents typically use to evaluate a home. So when I go to sell a single family property, I will present the seller with comparable properties in the neighborhood or in the town that may have sold that are similar to the house that they're thinking about putting on the market. When you're going to list a multifamily home, you value that income differently and base it off of things like your return on investment, and you have to look at it more of like a commercial property as opposed to, a single family residential property. Another pro when you're thinking about multifamily investment is competition. Oftentimes, especially in the market right now, competition is fierce, okay? There's a lot of buyers that are out there and there's just not enough homes to go around. And that doesn't need to be something that people get frustrated about. You just might need to change your plan a little bit. So there are less people looking for multifamily homes compared to single family, and that's where you can get a leg up and maybe even get a better deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to sign up for my monthly newsletter down below. That newsletter will keep you up to date on all things that are going on with real estate and right now. And trust me, the news that's happening with the market, it changes day to day. So now that you have that information, let's get back to the pros and cons of investing in multifamily real estate. All that said, it sounds pretty great to own a single family home. Can't disagree with you. But there are things that you need to consider on a downside perspective that we're going to go over right now. So these are my cons for investing in multifamily properties, or the negative side of investing in multifamily properties. My biggest con, and oftentimes the most frequent barrier to entry, is cost. Multifamily units are typically more expensive than your single family homes because you have a greater income, you're buying more square footage, and there's a whole bunch of other reasons why a multifamily home is more expensive than a single family home. But this ends up being the biggest hurdle for people when they're considering investment. My next is the actual time spent running the multifamily property. So oftentimes people think you're going to rent it, the tenants are going to take care of themselves, and you're going to have to deal with some, maintenance stuff here and there. But don't fall into that trap, because managing a multifamily property, the more units you have, the more time managing activity you need to be involved in with that property. So be sure to factor that in and give yourself a dollar value, because your time is worth money. So make sure you're considering that when you're investing in a multifamily property. Now, I know I mentioned on the pro side that one of the nice things is that there's less competition. And from a numbers perspective and sheer volume, yes, there is more competition there. There is more knowledgeable competition for a multifamily home than there would be for a single family home. So where you have a numbers perspective on your single family side, where you're just competing against a lot of other buyers, you have less numbers that you're competing with from a multifamily investment. But at the same time, those people that are competing tend to be able to spot a deal a lot faster than your average consumer, and often can see the max investment potential a lot faster than your typical consumer. So you have a more savvy competition to go up against. This next con is a pretty frequent thing that people are seeing right now, and it's just fewer properties to choose from on a multifamily investment scale, whether it be a 2-family, 3-family, big apartment complex. There is not a lot of properties to choose from in this category. So there's less to go around and less to specifically invest in. And finally, one of the other biggest cons, I guess you could say, to owning a multifamily investment is government regulation. There are a lot of regulations, laws that are on the books, especially here in Massachusetts, that specifically protect the renter in a tenant-renter relationship, or in a landlord-renter relationship. There are not a lot of laws that specifically protect the property owner in this aspect. It comes from a very long history of property management and different tactics that have gone on in the past that have, not really been so great for the greater good. So laws have been put on the book to try and protect your consumer from a renting perspective. And you need to be aware of all those regulations as a landlord. So hopefully these thoughts about my pros and cons with multifamily real estate investment helped you decide what is going to be the best path for you. Ultimately, there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to multifamily investment. The biggest thing is that you need to be able to take the numbers and make sure that they make sense for you and your plan. Make sure that you know your local regulations, that you understand any potential downsides of that investment, so that you can protect yourself going forward. And ultimately, as long as you're willing to run the numbers and to understand where you're making money and where you're losing money and how deals are transacted, then you're going to, at the end of the day, pick the right path for you. You're not going to go down the wrong path if you don't analyze the numbers first.